Hi, very glad to see you on the channel. Before you start listening to the story, write in the comments whether you like the voice on the video. People assume marriage falls apart in one explosive moment, like a house caving in during a storm. But it doesn't. It crumbles slowly, brick by brick, until one day you realize you're standing in the ruins, wondering when everything turned to dust. That's exactly how I felt. Megan and I have been married for almost 10 years. At first, it was good, better than good. We laughed, we planned, we built a life together. But over time, something shifted. I don't know exactly when it started, but one day, I woke up and realized that I was nothing more than an afterthought to her. The worst part? She didn't even bother to hide it anymore. It was little things at first. Eye rolls when I spoke, dismissive nods when I told her about my day. Then it escalated. The way she'd correct me in front of people, the way she'd make jokes at my expense, acting like I was just some clueless handyman who was lucky to have her. One night, at a family gathering, it finally hit me how far things had gone. We were in the backyard at her parents' house. I was at the grill, flipping burgers, talking with my brother-in-law, when Megan strolled over with a drink in hand. She was already in full performance mode, smiling too wide, speaking just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Chris, honey, let me take over. We don't need a repeat of last time," she teased, plucking the spatula from my hand. A few chuckles from her relatives. I forced a smirk. "Last time?" She gasped dramatically. "Oh, you don't remember? You charred the steaks so bad we could have used them as hockey pucks." More laughter. I clenched my jaw. It was a stupid joke, something that should have rolled off my back. But it wasn't just about the steaks. It was every time we were around people. Megan couldn't help herself, turning me into the punchline of whatever story she wanted to tell. She grinned, playfully nudging me. "Come on, it's all in good fun." I glanced around. No one else saw the problem. They just saw a wife teasing her husband. But they didn't feel what I felt, the quiet humiliation, the way she chipped away at me bit by bit, acting like I wasn't worth respecting. I took a breath and forced a chuckle. Yeah, good fun. But inside, something shifted. I wasn't sure how much more I could take. The weeks after that family gathering were the same as every other week before it. Megan continued her routine, mocking, dismissing, treating me like an afterthought. And I continued mine, gritting my teeth, brushing it off, pretending it didn't get to me. Until one night, when I couldn't anymore. We were at a friend's house for a small get-together. Just a few couples sitting around the fire pit in their backyard, drinks in hand, casual conversation flowing. I was relaxed for the first time in a while, enjoying myself, talking with my buddy Matt about a plumbing job I had done earlier that week. Megan, who had been chatting with the other wives, suddenly turned toward me and let out a dramatic sigh. "Chris, honey," she said, cutting me off mid-sentence. "I'm sure Matt doesn't want to hear about pipes all night." The conversation around the fire shifted slightly, people turning to watch. I cleared my throat. "We were just talking about." She laughed, shaking her head. No, it's fine. I just don't want you boring everyone with your fascinating tales of clogged drains." A few chuckles. My stomach tightened. Matt glanced at me, clearly uncomfortable. "I don't mind, actually." Megan waved him off. "You're just being polite. But trust me, I live with him. I know how these stories go." She smirked. "It's like being married to a guy who thinks a wrench is the most interesting thing in the world." More laughter. I let my drink rest against my thigh, the condensation dripping onto my jeans as I took a slow breath. I could have let it slide. I usually did. But not this time. I smiled, calm, steady, deliberate. "That's funny, Megan. I could say the same about you and your pool cleaner." Silence. The entire group stiffened. Megan's smile faltered for half a second before she forced a laugh. "What?" I tilted my head. "I mean, you do bring him up a lot. Almost like he's the most interesting thing in the world to you." She blinked rapidly, caught off guard. One of the wives raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you guys have a pool cleaner?" Megan let out a forced chuckle, waving a hand. "Oh, please. Chris is just being dramatic. We have a guy who comes by once a week to clean the pool. That's it." I took a sip of my drink. "Right. Once a week. Even though we barely use it." Her jaw tightened. "We have to keep up with maintenance, Chris. Otherwise, it gets gross." I nodded slowly. "Makes sense. Wouldn't want anything dirty in your pool." Megan's nails dug into the armrest of her chair. She knew what I was doing. She just didn't know how much I knew. I let the silence hang, watching her shift uncomfortably before I changed the subject completely, pretending like nothing had happened. She didn't speak to me the rest of the night, but I didn't care, because for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the guy she could walk all over. And the best part? I wasn't done yet. Megan had barely spoken to me since the night at Matt's place. She had kept up appearances, but something about her felt different, edgier, more guarded. I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking, eyes narrowed like she was trying to figure out what I knew and what I was just guessing. She wasn't the only one watching. For the first time in our marriage, I started paying attention. Megan had insisted on hiring the pool cleaner months ago, saying it was an investment in maintaining the home's value. Back then, I hadn't thought much of it. I worked long hours, and if it was one less thing I had to worry about, fine. But now that I was looking closer, something wasn't adding up. We barely used the damn pool. Yet, Megan insisted on keeping him on a weekly schedule, even during cooler months. The guy charged way more than necessary, yet she never complained about the cost. And the biggest red flag? She was suddenly always home when he came. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to check the pool myself. Megan was out running errands, so I grabbed a beer and stepped outside, walking the perimeter, inspecting everything. The water was crystal clear. No debris, no signs of buildup. But when I leaned over to check the skimmer basket, I frowned. There wasn't even a single leaf in there. That made no sense. Even with regular maintenance, some debris should have built up between cleanings. I looked around, scanning the area. The cabana was spotless. The pool deck was pristine. It didn't look like a place that required constant maintenance. It looked like a place that was never used. Yet we were paying for a pool cleaner every single week. I took another sip of my beer, the realization settling into my bones. This had nothing to do with home value. I needed proof. The next morning, I told Megan I had a long shift ahead of me. She barely reacted, just scrolling through her phone at the kitchen counter. All right, see you later. But I didn't go to work. Instead, I went to a security supply store and bought a waterproof camera, small, discreet, with a remote feed I could access from my phone. That night, when Megan was asleep, I went outside and installed it inside one of the pool lights. It blended perfectly. No one would notice it unless they were actively looking. And now, I waited. 3 days later, the pool cleaner showed up. I was parked a few blocks away, phone in hand, watching the live feed. At first, everything seemed normal. He arrived in his uniform, grabbed his supplies, started doing actual work. For the first 5 minutes, I almost convinced myself I was being paranoid. And then Megan stepped outside. She wasn't wearing the workout clothes she usually lounged around in. She was in a bikini, her hair done, looking like she had prepared for this moment. She walked right up to him, her hand playfully brushing his arm. They talked for a minute, her body language easy, flirtatious. Then she gestured toward the cabana, and just like that, they disappeared inside. I stare at my phone, the cold, hard proof right in front of me. No more doubts. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. Megan was cheating. In our backyard. While I was out busting my ass at work. Something inside me cracked. But it wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something deeper. Something colder. I could storm over there, confront them right now. But that wasn't enough. Megan thought she was smart, that she was in control, that I was too blind to ever figure it out. She had no idea that her real punishment was just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the footage over and over again in my head. Megan's hand on his arm, the way she smiled at him like she used to smile at me, the way they disappeared into the cabana without hesitation. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a one-time thing. This was routine. I turned my head and looked at her sleeping beside me, peaceful, unaware that everything had changed. How many times had she come back inside, kissed me goodnight, acted like nothing had happened? I clenched my jaw and exhaled slowly, forcing myself to think. I had proof, but proof wasn't enough. If I confronted her now, she'd cry, lie, twist the story. She'd find some way to make herself the victim. And the last thing I wanted was to let her walk away from this with any dignity left. No, she needed to be exposed. The next morning, I got up like it was any other day. Megan was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, scrolling through her phone. "Morning," she said casually. I nodded, grabbing a mug. "Morning. You got any plans today?" She stretched, feigning a yawn. "Just the usual. Might go to the gym, then probably some errands." I smirked. "Pool cleaner coming today." She didn't even flinch. "Yeah, gotta keep up with maintenance." I took a slow sip of my coffee, staring at her over the rim of my mug. She didn't even blink. Unbelievable. I set my mug down, leaning against the counter. "Hey, I was thinking we should throw a party this weekend. Just something casual. Invite some friends, maybe family. It's been a while." Megan looked up, surprised. "A party?" "Yeah, get everyone together, have some drinks, maybe fire up the grill." I shrugged. "Weather's been nice." She hesitated, then smiled. "Yeah, that actually sounds fun." She had no idea. The next few days were a blur of planning. I invited friends, neighbors, even some of Megan's closest relatives. She thought it was a normal weekend gathering, something I was doing to be more social. In reality, it was the stage for her public execution. On the morning of the party, I made my final preparations. I checked the projector I had mounted outside, making sure the footage was ready to go. I tested the connection to my phone, ensuring that at the press of a button, Megan's secret would be cast onto a screen for everyone to see. By the time guests arrived, I was calm. I shook hands, laughed at jokes, played the role of the perfect host. Megan was glowing, completely unaware that in just a few hours, her entire world would collapse. I waited until everyone was comfortable, drinks in hand, food on their plates. Then I tapped my beer bottle against the patio table. "Hey, everyone, before we get too deep into the night, I just wanted to share something special." Megan, sitting across from me, tilted her head, confused. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. The projector flickered to life, and there, in full clarity, was the footage from the pool light camera. Megan, stepping outside in her bikini, her hand brushing against the pool cleaner's arm. Their hushed voices, their flirtatious glances. And then, the moment they disappeared into the cabana together, the backyard went silent. Megan's face drained of color, her body going completely still. Someone gasped. Someone else muttered, "No F*** ing way." Then Rachel, one of Megan's closest friends, whispered, "Oh my God." Megan shot up from her chair. "Chris, turn it off." I took a slow sip of my beer, savoring the moment. "Why? Don't like seeing the maintenance you've been paying for?" She shook her head rapidly, panic setting in. This is out of context." I tilted my head. "Oh, then let's watch some more." I tapped my phone again, skipping ahead. This time, it was even worse. Megan and the pool cleaner, entangled, completely unaware of the hidden camera watching them. The silence shattered. Someone gagged. A few guests muttered curses under their breath. Megan's own mother covered her mouth in horror. Megan lunged for my phone, but I stepped back, grinning. "Relax, babe. We all paid for this, didn't we?" She turned, wild-eyed, looking for support. But there was none. No one was on her side. She looked at her friends, silent. Her family, disgusted. And then, the final blow. I took a long, slow drink from my beer, then set it down on the table. Guess the pool's not the only thing getting serviced. And with that, I walked inside, locking the doors behind me. Megan pounded on the glass, screaming my name, but I didn't care. I had won. Megan's screams outside the door were muffled, but I could still hear the desperation in them. She pounded against the glass, her voice cracking. "Chris, open the damn door." I took my time finishing my beer, setting the empty bottle down on the kitchen counter before walking to the sliding door. Megan's face was a mess, red, streaked with tears, a mixture of fury and panic flashing in her eyes. Behind her, the party was a disaster. Some guests were already leaving, muttering to each other, shaking their heads. Others stood frozen, still trying to process what they had just witnessed. Megan slammed her palm against the glass again. "Chris, please." I unlocked the door, but instead of opening it, I crossed my arms and leaned against the frame. "What?" She blinked, stunned. "What? Why should I let you in?" My voice was calm, controlled. "Because you're embarrassed? Because people saw the real you?" Her hands curled into fists. "This isn't fair. You ambushed me, humiliated me in front of everyone. That video was the truth. I cut her off, my expression blank. And you deserve to be exposed. Her jaw clenched, but then she did what she always did, switch tactics. Her voice softened, her eyes filled with tears. Chris, please. Let's just talk. Just us. You can't throw away our marriage over one mistake. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. One mistake? Megan, you've been sneaking around with him for months. In our backyard. While I was out working my ass off to take care of you. She swallowed hard, the fake tears faltering for a moment. I wasn't thinking, no. You were thinking, I corrected. You thought I was too stupid to catch on. You thought I'd never question it. You thought you'd keep getting away with it while I played the fool. She shook her head rapidly. No, I felt neglected. You were always working, always tired. I needed attention. I let out a hollow laugh. So, because I was out paying our bills, you decided the best solution was to spread your legs for the damn pool cleaner? Her mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. That was the moment I saw it. The exact second she realized there was no way out of this. No excuse, no justification, no sob story that would make me take her back. I straightened, stepping closer until there was barely a foot between us. We're done, Megan. Her breath hitched. Chris, I'll be filing for divorce first thing Monday. Her hand shook as she reached out, barely grazing my arm. You don't mean that. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I laughed, shaking my head. Counseling? Megan, you didn't trip and fall onto him by accident. You made choices. Repeatedly. She let out a choked sob. It didn't mean anything. Isterte her, disgusted. It meant enough for you to destroy our marriage over it. Behind her, a few guests were still watching, pretending not to. Jason stood near the patio table, arms crossed, shaking his head. Megan must have noticed too, because she suddenly stepped inside, trying to close the door behind her. I blocked it. She gave me a pleading look. Chris, please, just let me explain. I let the silence drag out for a moment, then leaned in just enough to whisper, get out. Her face crumpled. What? I stepped back, jerking my head toward the door. Get out. Go stay with your pool boy since you like him so damn much. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I have nowhere to go. Not my problem. She blinked in disbelief, like it had never once crossed her mind that I wouldn't give in, that I wouldn't crumble under her fake apologies, her manipulative tears. I turned away, walking back toward the kitchen, ignoring the way her breath hitched in panic. Chris, please. Her voice cracked. Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? I stopped in the doorway, looking back just once. You should have thought about that before you decided to throw our life away. Then I shut the door, locking it behind me. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Megan didn't leave right away. She stood outside the locked door, pounding on it with both fists, her voice cracking with panic. Chris, open the door. I didn't move. I just stood in the kitchen, gripping the counter, listening. Chris, I have nowhere to go, she cried, her voice raw now. You can't just lock me out like this. I exhaled slowly, my jaw tight. Every instinct told me to keep the door closed, to let her deal with the consequences of her own actions. But part of me, some distant, conditioned part, still hesitated. I had spent years being the one to fix things, to smooth things over, to give in when Megan pushed. Not this time. I forced myself to take a deep breath, then turned and walked away, leaving her outside. A few minutes later, I heard the sound of a car pulling up. Jason's voice carried through the night. Megan, you need to go. I need to talk to my husband, she spat. Jason sighed. I think you lost the right to call him that when you decided to screw the damn pool guy. Silence. Then Megan let out a choked sob. I don't have anywhere else to stay. Jason's tone stayed firm. Not his problem. I moved to the window and peeked through the blinds. Megan was standing on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Jason stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, watching her like she was a cornered animal. She turned on him suddenly, her voice sharp. You think this is funny? Jason scoffed. No, Megan. I think this is pathetic. Her hands balled into fists. You're supposed to be our friend. Jason tilted his head. His friend. Then he jerked his thumb toward the street. Now get out of here before you embarrass yourself any more than you already have. Megan stood there, chest rising and falling, her whole body shaking. Then, without another word, she turned and stormed toward her car. The second she was gone, Jason knocked on my door. I let him in, and he walked straight to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and handed me one before cracking open his own. "Well," he said, exhaling, "that was one hell of a party." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Yeah, not exactly how I thought the night would end." Jason smirked. "You okay?" I took a sip of my beer, rolling the question over in my mind. "I think so." And for the first time, I actually meant it. The next morning, Megan's text started. "Megan, please, can we just talk? Megan, you can't just cut me out like this. We built a life together. Megan, I made a mistake, but it doesn't erase everything we had." I ignored them. Then the call started. I ignored those too. By noon, she switched tactics. "Megan, if you don't talk to me, I'll have no choice but to get a lawyer." I laughed at that one. I already had a lawyer. That afternoon, I made my first official call to Claire, the divorce attorney Jason had recommended. She answered on the second ring. "Chris, I was expecting your call." I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah, it's time." Claire was sharp, efficient. I gave her a rundown of the situation, and she barely even blinked at the details. "Infidelity makes this easy," she said. "She won't be entitled to much, especially since the house is in your name." I exhaled, relief settling into my bones. "Good." Then she said something that made me pause. "Has she made any threats? Tried to manipulate you?" I frowned. "She's been texting nonstop, trying to make me feel guilty." "That count?" Claire sighed. "She's losing control, Chris. People like Megan don't handle that well. Be careful." I hung up feeling steadier than I had in days. Megan could cry, beg, threaten all she wanted. It wouldn't change a damn thing. That night, Jason came over again, dropping onto my couch with a smirk. "So you file yet?" "Monday." He raised his beer in a mock toast. "To your freedom." We clinked bottles, and I took a deep sip, letting the moment settle. For the first time in years, my future felt mine again. Monday morning, I filed for divorce. I walked into Claire's office, signed the papers, and handed them over. She flipped through them, nodded, and said, "She's not going to take this well." "I know. She'll try everything," Claire continued. "Tears, manipulation, maybe even a little revenge. Be prepared." I smirked. She could try. By noon, Megan knew. She must have gotten the official notice because my phone exploded with texts. "Megan, are you serious?" "Megan, Chris, I'm trying to fix this. And you go behind my back and file for divorce?" "Megan, I get it. You're hurt, but you're throwing everything away." I ignored them. Then she called. I let it ring. Then she showed up at the house. I saw her car pull into the driveway through the front window, but I didn't move. She knocked once, twice, then harder, louder. "Chris, I know you're in there." I took my time getting to the door, cracking it just enough to look at her. "What do you want?" She let out a shaky breath. "Can we please talk?" I studied her. Her hair was messier than usual, dark circles under her eyes. She looked tired, desperate, but I wasn't falling for it. "Talk about what?" She swallowed hard. "About us. There is no us." Her lip trembled. "You don't mean that." I sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "Megan, I didn't end our marriage. You did. The second you let another man touch you, the second you lied to my face day after day, it was already over." Tears welled in her eyes. "I made a mistake." I scoffed. "A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is leaving the stove on. You had an affair, Megan, in our backyard, while I was out working to give you everything you wanted." She flinched. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I tilted my head. "Then why do it?" She stared at me, speechless. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's what I thought." She stepped forward, placing a hand on my arm. "Chris, I love you." I pulled back. "No, Megan, you loved using me." Her face crumpled, but I didn't care. I had spent years being the one who gave in, who made things work, who forgave and forgot. But this was unforgivable. She wiped at her tears quickly. Then, just like that, her expression hardened. "Fine," she snapped. "If you want to do this the hard way, then so be it." I smirked. "Go ahead. My lawyer is better than yours." Her mouth opened, then shut. She knew I was right. I shut the door in her face. A week later, Megan tried a different approach. I was at work when Jason sent me a text. Jason, dude, she's telling people you cheated. I roll my eyes. Me, let them talk. The truth is already out there. And that was the thing. Megan thought she could control the narrative, but she had forgotten something important. People had seen the truth. The footage from the party had done more damage than she realized. The whispers had started immediately. Friends, family, neighbors, everyone knew what she had done. And no matter how hard she tried to spin it, no one was buying it. A few days later, Jason called. You're gonna love this. Megan showed up at Rachel's house crying, saying you force her into cheating. I laughed. You're kidding. Nope. She's playing the neglected wife card. I shook my head. Let her. It won't change anything. And it didn't. The divorce process moved quickly. Claire made sure of that. Megan had no leverage, no way to drag it out. I kept the house, my assets, everything. She walked away with nothing. The last time I saw her was in the courtroom. She sat across from me, quiet, small, nothing like the woman who once thought she was untouchable. When the judge finalized the divorce, she barely looked at me. It was over, and I had won. The first morning I woke up as a divorced man, I felt nothing but relief. There was no tension in my chest, no anxiety creeping in at the edges of my thoughts. The house was quiet, peaceful, without Megan's presence polluting it. For the first time in years, I didn't have to walk on eggshells. I brewed my coffee exactly how I liked it, strong, no sugar, without hearing Megan complain that it was too bitter. I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone, no longer caring about what she was doing, where she was, or what kind of lie she was planning next. Megan was gone, and I had never felt lighter. Jason texted me mid-morning. Jason, so, how's it feel to be free? Me, like I just dropped 100 pounds of dead weight. Jason, nice. Let's celebrate. Beers tonight? Me, hell yeah. That night, we met at a bar downtown, one we used to go to before Megan started making me feel guilty for having a social life. I walked in, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel trapped. Jason raised his beer when I sat down. To your new life. I clinked bottles with him, smirking. To never being played again. We drank, laughed, talked about everything but Megan, because she was no longer a part of my life. But from what I heard, her life wasn't going so well. Megan had moved into a small apartment across town. It was nothing like the home she had shared with me. No pool, no fancy kitchen, no high-end furniture. She had gone from being the spoiled housewife to someone barely scraping by. Jason, being Jason, kept tabs on her through mutual friends. Jason, word is Megan struggling. Me, not my problem. Jason, pool boy dumped her. Me, called it. Jason, she's telling people she regrets everything. Me, too late. I didn't feel bad for her. Not even a little. She had made her choices. She had thrown away everything we built, and now she was paying for it. A few weeks later, I ran into her at the grocery store. I had just grabbed a six-pack and some steaks when I turned the corner and saw her standing by the freezer section, staring blankly at a row of frozen dinners. She looked different. Not bad, just less. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun. Her usual expensive clothes replaced with something simpler. She didn't have the glow of someone who had won. She looked tired. She spotted me and froze. I didn't stop walking. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of thinking I cared. But as I passed, she spoke. Chris. I paused, just for a second. Then I turned, meeting her gaze. She swallowed, gripping the freezer door like she needed to steady herself. E. I raised an eyebrow. E. She hesitated, then offered a weak smile. You look good. I smirked. I know. She flinched slightly, then cleared her throat. I wanted to say, I am sorry. I let the silence hang between us. She shifted on her feet. I mean it. I messed up. I lost everything. And I regret it. I tilted my head. What exactly do you regret, Megan? Losing me? Or losing the life you had with me? Her eyes glistened. Both. I studied her, searching for sincerity. Maybe she really did regret it. Maybe she had finally realized what she had thrown away. But it didn't matter. I exhaled slowly. I appreciate the apology. Hope flickered across her face. Does that mean it means I accept it? I interrupted. But it doesn't change anything. She looked like she wanted to say more, but I was already turning away. Chris, I glanced back, my voice steady. Take care, Megan. Then I walked away, not looking back. And as I walked out of the store, stepping into the sunlight, I realized something. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt free. It didn't take long for Megan to disappear from my life completely. After the grocery store encounter, she stopped texting, stopped trying to get my attention. Maybe she had finally realized there was no point. Or maybe she had just run out of excuses to justify everything she had done. Either way, I didn't care. My life had moved on. And hers? It was falling apart. Jason kept me updated, whether I wanted to hear it or not. Jason, Megan lost her job. Me, didn't know she had one. Jason, guess she tried working at a boutique or something. Lasted 2 months before they let her go. Me, figures. She had spent so many years living comfortably off me, playing the role of the spoiled housewife, that she had no idea how to function on her own. And without my money, without the house, without the support system she had taken for granted, she was struggling. Jason, word is she had to move again. Apartment was too expensive. Me, where to? Jason, don't know. But it's definitely not a place with a pool. I laughed at that one. Meanwhile, my life had never been better. I had thrown myself into work, taking on bigger projects, even considering starting my own plumbing business. For the first time in years, I was living for myself, not for someone else's expectations. One afternoon, I was at the gym when Jason called. "You're not going to believe this," he said, amusement lacing his voice. I wiped sweat from my face with a towel. "What now?" Megan ran into Rachel at a coffee shop. "Told her she's still in love with you." I barked out a laugh. "No way." "Yep." "Said you were the best thing that ever happened to her, and that she wishes she could take it all back." I smirked. "She can't." Jason chuckled. "Nope. But man, it's hilarious watching her realize she ed up this bad." It was, but I didn't feel satisfaction from it anymore. There was no thrill in knowing Megan was miserable. No lingering resentment. She had faded into the past, just another lesson learned. That weekend, Jason convinced me to go to a cookout at his cousin's house. It was one of those laid-back gatherings, good food, cold beers, music playing low in the background. I was talking with a few guys when I noticed someone watching me. She was standing near the patio, holding a drink, her eyes occasionally flicking in my direction. Jason nudged me. "She's been looking at you all night." I raised an eyebrow. "You know her?" "Yeah, that's Emma. She's cool. And single." I glanced back at her. She smiled, and this time I smiled back. Jason grinned. "Told you. I wasn't in a rush to jump into anything new. I was enjoying my life, my freedom. But for the first time in a long time, I wanted to see where things might go." As I walked over to introduce myself, I realized something. Megan had thought she had one, that she had played the game and come out on top. But in the end, she had lost everything. And me? I had gained something much better. A fresh start. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Don't forget to give a like and tell us in the comments what you would do in such a situation.